The topic of this video is simple. What in the world happened to IBM? If you were to ask anyone 50 to 60 years ago who the #1 technology company would be, the #1 de facto answer would be IBM. It's hard to understate just how much of a powerhouse IBM was in its heyday. There was IBM and there was only IBM. It was an absolute monster in its field, pioneering, blazing the trail for all tech companies that would follow it. Computing, artificial intelligence, you name it. IBM was doing it 50 years ago with 1,000 of the processing power. IBM had it all, and it seemed to gain strength year after year like some sort of unstoppable beast. But somewhere along the line, IBM began to fall off. There's a reason why you don't hear about it anymore next to companies like Microsoft, Amazon, or Netflix. They lost their image as a cultural icon and descended into something else. IBM seemed to fall and never reclaim its former glory. What exactly happened to this company and where is it now? Understand exactly what led to the demise of IBM as a technological powerhouse. You first have to understand a very complicated series of events that ultimately crippled the company and knocked it off its high horse. This series of events goes all the way back to 1970 with the catastrophic loss of one of the most important CEOs of all time, Thomas J. Watson Jr. After the visionary leader, which brought IBM to the forefront of technology, suffered a heart attack in 1970, Thomas J. Watson Jr. ended up retiring in 1971. This led to a new leader named T. Vincent Learson, who would succeed him, but later retired immediately after reaching the age of 60, after which came a CEO known as Frank T. Carey, an IBM employee with 24 years of experience with data processing. Somewhere in this time period, IBM gets involved with two massive court battles, one involving a case of patent infringement, which involved the type of photoconductors in printers, whereas another company was using selenium and accusing IBM of stealing their idea, and the other was a massive antitrust battle with the US Justice Department. Meanwhile, IBM is distracted with these two gigantic court battles. It loses over 30% of its market share in the computer market, which gives a sort of foreshadowing on IBM's future inability to adapt with change as fast as it needs to eventually compete with giants such as Microsoft in the future. So IBM gets scared and starts to invest heavily in personal computers so as not to become extinct as a company, but by this point IBM has so many fingers and so many pies, mainframe computing, hard drives, electric typewriters. The fact is that IBM is a sort of jack of all trades at this point, and spread so thin that it begins to start rupturing blood. It's in this year 1992 that IBM has one of the worst losses in financial history, $8.1 billion. Thousands of IBM employees lose their jobs, and IBM is viewed as an outdated dinosaur. And finally, we end up where the public perception of IBM has sort of ended, with everyone viewing it as sort of an extinct corporation on its way to the graveyard. But in comes CEO Lou Gerstner. Now, Louis Gerstner is different from a lot of past CEOs for IBM in many ways, but the most notable of which being the fact that he's never worked at IBM before this point. But despite this, Louis Gerstner makes the bold decision to basically say, forget about technology, forget about computers, forget about basically everything IBM is about. Let's provide integrated solutions to businesses around the world at ridiculously high margins. Using this strategy, Gerstner quickly pulls IBM out of debt and into the black, where it starts innovating again with breakthroughs like IBM Watson and various other advances in AI and cloud computing. In fact, instead of being a dinosaur, IBM is doing quite well for itself today as one of the most valuable tech companies in America. It's surprising, but IBM is actually doing very well despite its stormy outlook. So, question of the day, what happened to IBM? It transformed, it adapted with the times, and now it's better than it's ever been in the past.